Press conference was held in Warsaw, summing up the country's EU presidency in the context of security and defense. Marcin Matuszewski attended the event and interviewed two of the speakers, Polish MEP Michał Szczerba, who is the rapporteur on EU strategic partnership for defense and security, and Paweł Zalewski, Polish Defense Ministry Secretary of State.
What are the most important achievements of the 2025 Polish European Council presidency in the domain of security?
Michał Szczerba, member of the European Parliament. This presidency has a meaningful impact on the future of the European Union in the field of security and defense. Our motto was Security Europe, and we did a lot to make Europe more safe. First of all, it was a safe instrument which was introduced as a loans available for 27 member states to invest in defense, to rearm its armies. Second, it's Readiness 2030, which is the EU strategy on defense, also defense industry, how to improve it, how to make it stronger. And the last thing, it's defense readiness omnibus. We propose to prepare and to implement a package of simplification which will allow European defense industry to invest faster, using, for instance, a safe instrument.
Paweł Zalewski, State Secretary in Polish Ministry of National Defense. I believe that there are two main achievements, many others additionally, but I would like to concentrate on these two. First is escape clause, which enables member states to spend more money on defense, and safe regulation, which is focused on defense procurements of member states, and it goes along with the decisions of NATO summit, which creates responsibility for the member states to spend 5% of GDP on defense during next 10 years. So we were able to create, first of all, formal legal basis for increase of defense spending within NATO, and we created mechanisms for financing, and we are talking about 150 billion euros of financing public defense procurements to fulfill the targets to increase military capabilities defined by NATO for NATO members.
Do you think that the steps you described will be enough to, let's say, stop Putin from trying to take the Baltics or attacking the Suwałki Gap in the upcoming years, or are we a little late to the party, so to speak?
No, it was also a success of Polish presidency within the Council of the EU to name two flagship projects, which are the Eastern Border Shield, which was proposed by Polish government, but also Baltic Defense Line, which was mainly supported by the Baltic states. And these projects coming from our governments now has opportunity to be co-financed by the EU money.
Of course, still we are late, and that is because the consciousness of threat comes after Russia full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and unfortunately because Poland was very vocal in convincing member states how dangerous Russian policy is earlier. But it's very good that the conclusions have been drawn from this aggression, and that nowadays NATO and the EU concentrates their policy on efficient deterrence, and that we observe full synergy between these two institutions, and that is very important signal sent first by the EU and by NATO to Mr. Putin that the West will defend successfully itself, and that he can only risk huge damage attacking NATO and the EU.
During the conference, the new transatlantic EU security partnerships were mentioned. Do you think they provide a viable alternative for the EU-US partnership in case it ever turns out that Europe cannot rely on America in the matter of defense?
So far, using the strategy compass tool, the EU has signed 8 strategic partnerships dealing with defense and security. The last ones are with the UK and Canada. Now we are working on Australia, but as a standing rapporteur on the US and a rapporteur on strategic partnerships, EU strategic partnerships, I also recommend this kind of partnership with the US. We are ready for this. We have to cooperate in the field of many challenges and also a direct threat, which is still Russia.
We understand that with the changing world, with the rise of China, we face completely different challenges than, let's say, 10, 20 years ago, and that the new threat which appeared in the Pacific requires right answer. And it is United States which is responsible for the answer. It is United States which mobilize Southeast Asia states with such allies like Australia or New Zealand. But it means also the United States have limited resources and is not able to engage itself in securing Europe as much as it was before. That is why European states step up. We have to beef up our military power, and that is what the last conclusion of NATO summit are about.
Would you say that the European Union is doing enough when it comes to truly helping Ukraine repel the Russian invasion?
Yes, it's the EU which supports Ukraine in different formats, also using a strong tool against Russian war economy. We are now working on the 18th package of sanctions. It creates possibility to weaken the aggressor.
With the decision of the United States to concentrate on Indo-Pacific and to withdraw from supporting Ukraine, European Union will have to do more. But we have to remember that the best way to defend Europe is to support Ukraine. And if we don't want to have trenches in Europe, we have to support Ukrainian armed forces and support Ukraine to defend successfully. And after the ceasefire, which potentially will be realistic next year, we need to do everything to support Ukrainian forces to be able to defend itself against Russia, and also to tie the Russian forces along Ukrainian border. That is why, defending ourselves, we have to support Ukraine in the right scale, which must be, and I believe will be, larger.